Hey, this is Kyle Jetsel. I am a happily married father of 6 kids. I guess I was happily married. In October of 2021, my wife passed away after 30 years of marriage. So I am now a single dad of 6 kids. I want to answer the first question, which is what are some effective ways to manage stress? And, you know, when you have 6 kids, it's really difficult to get away and do all those things they say help you manage stress. So I would like to suggest an alternative idea, and that is this. Whenever we face stress, usually it's because we're frustrated or angry or discouraged or something happens that takes us outside of our normal way of doing things. So one of the things that I learned how to do through the help of my wife was to recognize when something frustrates me or angers me or makes me discouraged or depressed, and identify what that is specifically, and then create a plan so that the next time that happens, I'll be more prepared. And I'll give you an example. Maybe it's not a specific example, but maybe your kids like to argue, and it tends to stress the family out because you end up arguing with your kids. I sat down and I said, okay, here's what my pattern is right now when my kids try to argue with me. And that is causing me stress. It makes me frustrated, angry, discouraged. What am I going to do next time my kids try to argue with me? And the most important part of that is how can whatever I decide to do that's alternative to what my pattern is I ask myself, how can I do this in the spirit of love? So if the kids start to argue, I'll stop mentally and think, what am I thinking? Am I frustrated, angry, discouraged? Is it productive? Is it helpful? And what can I say, and how can I put myself in a state of love so that I can manage this in a happy, loving way? And that really changed everything for me dramatically. Here's what's interesting. It's going to be hard either way. Parenting kids, being a dad is hard. Working with your wife, your spouse is hard. But you get to choose the kind of hard, right? You can choose the hard that leaves you frustrated, angry, stressed out, discouraged. And a lot of us fall into those patterns naturally. Or we can choose to recreate our pattern, change the way we manage those things in real time. And if we manage those things in the spirit of love and approach those things with kindness and patience and compassion, and like I said, in the spirit of love, it will leave us energized. One of my favorite stories about stress is about the guy who was stuck in traffic and he was just freaking out. He was angry. He was discouraged. He was honking his horn. He was just sweating and he was angry. And he looked over next to him and there was a gentleman in the car just smiling and singing along with the song. And he looked over and he was kind of shocked initially, and it kind of upset him that this guy was so happy to be stuck in traffic. But as he looked at it, he realized he was going to be stuck in traffic. There was no way around it. And he was going to be there. And he looked over, and as he saw that guy singing along to a song and smiling and bobbing his head back and forth, he rolled down his window and he yelled at the guy, and he just asked him, what's going on? And the guy said, if I've got to be stuck in traffic, I might as well find something to do that makes me happy and gives me energy. And the guy said, I'm going to be late coming home anyway. My wife's probably going to be mad at me. My kids are going to be upset that it took me so long to get home. He said, the worst thing I can do is be angry and mad back. So I'm going to put myself in a good state and a good spirit so that when I see my kids and my wife, I can tell them I was stuck in traffic, but I'm here now and I'm excited to be with you. And I love you guys. And it was a dramatic change from how that one man was feeling. So, these are important questions I want to address. So part 2, how can I build a strong bond with my kids while also supporting my partner? I started telling the story about when my wife and I were reading the Alice in Wonderland book to our little boys at the time. And we came to the part where Alice comes to a crossroads, and she sees the cat, and she says to the cat, which way should I go? And the cat says, well, it depends on where you want to end up. And Alice says, well, it doesn't really matter where I end up. And then he says, well, it doesn't really matter which way you go then. Just go one way and you'll end up somewhere. And in that moment, I looked at my wife when we realized, although we were working really hard together as a couple, in some cases we were working against each other. In some cases we were working against our kids, and we really weren't united as a couple. And so we sat down and we basically mapped out, we created what we called our family map. And it was kind of on one side of the piece of paper, we wrote down where we wanted to be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years with our kids. And on the other side, we wrote down where we assumed we might end up if we kept going down the same path. And what was very interesting is we did this together, my wife and I, and it allowed us to discuss our common goals. And what that did for us was simply, when we came to a situation where she and I disagreed, or, we wanted to create a strong bond with our kids and with each other, we would refer to the map. And the map we both together became submissive to the map. It wasn't about her getting her way or me getting my way. It was about us working together for our common goal. Now, we didn't always agree on how to get there, but it was a starting point to allow us to discuss how we thought we could get there. And we decided to work together on that. And that really, it was interesting because it not only did it build a bond between my wife and I, but that kind of leads to my third question. What practical tips or resources have helped you navigate fatherhood? One of the most important things I think we learned is that my kids knew that my wife was number one to me, and my kids knew that I was number one to my wife. And so it gave them comfort to know how much we loved each other and how much we thought of them together. And I really think it made me a better father, engaging my wife in some of those decisions, and it made her a better mother, engaging me. And it was simply because we decided to create a map of where we wanted to go, right? I mean, if we can work really crazy hard to build a strong bond with our kids and with our spouses, but if we don't really know where we want to end up, we may not end up where we want to, and we may be making decisions that lead us to the wrong places. So hopefully that answers question 2 and 3. How can I build a strong bond with my kids while supporting my partner? And what practical tips or resources have helped you navigate fatherhood? The most important one was loving their mother, engaging their mother in creating a plan to raise these kids, and really thoughtfully raising these kids so that we had time to discuss where we all wanted to end up together. And then we became submissive to that plan. No more my ego was in the way or her ego was in the way. No more, she wanted her way and I wanted my way. What ended up happening is we worked together to achieve the goals we had for our kids and for our relationship. And a big part of that was to create that strong bond. And to this day, my oldest son is 30. The other day, he told me I was his best friend. And that's really what we want. He's 30 years old. He's married. He lives away with his wife. But to hear that from your son, and my other son was over last night with his wife, just having so much fun with us, so much happiness in our home, sitting around the kitchen table, just loving on each other, having so much fun. It's just a powerful thing. So hopefully that's helpful. This is Kyle Jetsel. My email is, I'll put it in the little box at the end, but reach out to me anytime. I'd love to chat with you again if you'd love to do that and get into more detail on these 3 questions. I think these are wonderful, wonderful questions. If your plan as a husband and a father is to create a world where you and your wife and your kids can absolutely thrive and love on each other at the highest levels and create what we called a top 1% happy family. So thanks for asking me these questions. Hopefully it's helpful. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
It's time to rethink men's health. Because it doesn't just affect men, it affects us all. When men are well, the benefits ripple through families and communities. But when men are unwell and unsupported, we all feel it. We're all the real face of men's health. Be part of the solution with Movember.